when I read about it, I thought, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's bonkers, because if you marry yourself, who are you going to moan at?
Moaning, not about like going out for dinner.
Who are you going to moan at? Who are you going to boss about? But then I thought, well, I've got this friend who's quite a famous artist, Tracy Emin, and last year, I think she's had a few disastrous relationships and she hasn't even found Mr. 20%, let alone Mr. Perfect. And so she announced very publicly she'd married a rock. And I think she said she'd married the rock because it was very beautiful and very dignified and wasn't going to let her down.
But you know, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe she's finally had acceptance that Mr. Right isn't out there.
But rather than
she marry a
you could marry a vacuum cleaner, that would let you go. And you could even send off a spare part.
But the good thing is, at least they're never going to cheat on you. You're never going to cheat on yourself. You're not got to clean anybody else's hair out of the sink.
Well, yeah. You do worry, though, don't you, that if you're in have such a desire to get married, you're willing to go to such an extent. I mean, that in itself has to be analysed or looked at. I mean, if one of my friends comes to me now and said, I'm going to marry myself, I can't wait for you all to know. Really?
But
I think you and I need to have a talk. You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you really?
Is that your comment?
That's my...
You know what? There is a real...
How embarrassing. You can't find anyone to marry, so you marry yourself.
Nevertheless, there are more single women in this country than ever before. And if you do want to get married, it's an option.
It's ridiculous.
Well, they're saying now that people, the trend at marriage is so going out of fashion that a third of the people in their 20s now will never get married. But finding Mr. Right or Miss Right is harder and harder and harder. Look at me, I've had 4 goes at it.
Maybe if you think of it like as a ceremony of acceptance. That, you know, this isn't going to happen. I'm not going to just keep chasing an impossible dream. There is no Mr. or Mrs. Right, because I presume some men are marrying themselves as well. And so this is a ceremony to let go. I'm really trying to make this.
I think it's really interesting because in the High Court today, a couple have lost their attempt to get to have civil partnerships declared legal for heterosexual couples, because at the moment you can get married if you're heterosexual, but you can't have a civil partnership. Now, when civil partnerships were brought in for same-sex couples, they were then replaced by gay marriage, which has become very, very popular. But for a lot of straight people, they don't like the idea of marriage at all. I can see why they might want civil partnership, because marriage is definitely not very popular.
Yeah.
It's going out of popularity.
Well, I mean, as well, I suppose years and years ago, you think about women who haven't found the Mr. Right but wanted to be a B, and that is now possible that you can do that. Maybe we're talking about this sologamy, and in 50 years' time, it will be a very, very normal thing where people just decide.
Christine, I've got comments. Can I read you some viewers' comments? Jan says, I've been married to myself for years. I know myself inside out. I know what I want in life. I tell myself how beautiful I am. Yeah, I do that. But overall, I'm so happy with myself.
No, but that's good. But she hasn't gone through a whole ceremony, wedding dress and all that, and married herself.
So I get a wedding, cheaper honeymoon, because I would only be buying one person's flight.